Morning, y'all. Today we're going to talk about the Bronze Age, and then we're going to kind of summarize that in 10 minutes, I guess, and then start moving on to the ancient civilizations. If you guys can't tell, that's Batman right there. Batman says, "What's up?" Hope you guys had a good weekend. Um, yeah, so let's get started. Okay, so I have decided I'm going to leave the camera up on the corner because it's nice for you guys to be able to see my face, I think. Makes it a little bit more personable. So, yesterday, well, not yesterday, I guess it was Friday, more like it. I forget how to play for this stupid thing. So, Monday, we went over timelines. Or Friday, sorry, it is Monday. We talked about. Oh, let's put this into the laser pointer mode. I like that. Okay, so first stone tools, 2,500,000 years ago. 500,000 years ago. So a heck of a long time. 2.5 million years ago, people started using stone. We covered the Stone Age last time. So let's see, when do we got? Does it talk about the first cities begin to develop? Agriculture appears. Mohenjo-daro is the oldest planned city in the world. Arguable at best. I have a different oldest city at the end of this, so we'll see who's right. So we're basically, we just covered about 2 million years of human history last time in 20 minutes. Real nice, real concise, covering everything we need to know. So we got bone tools. People just started to use bone tools 10,000 years ago. So it took a long time to get from stone to bone. In any case, it took even less time to get from bone to bronze, which is what we'll be talking about today. The AD timeline, not important. We went over these terms. Primary sources and secondary sources. Probably the most important thing I want you to learn from this class is what primary sources are and how to study them. It will help you in everything in your life. If you learn how to view things as a historian, it helps to analyze and interpret any information that comes at you. It teaches you to approach things in a scientific, fact-based way. So if I teach you all this history stuff and you don't learn any of it, but you do learn how to approach a historical text or how to approach any text in your life, then I feel like I won. That's what the point of all this is to teach you to be lifelong learners. School isn't necessarily about learning the content that you study every day. It's about learning how to learn and how to approach your life from an intelligent and critical thinking aspect. As you can see in the world around us, people's ability to critically think is suffering. It is not good. People are stupid, and it's making this world stupid. And so my goal is to make you all smarter so you can help this world be smarter and not be such a mess. So when writing history, historians and you, students, should ask themselves the 5 W's. And when reading history, when reading anything, when you read a modern news article, what happened, when and where did it happen, who was involved, why did it happen, and another one that should be on there is why are they telling you this? Why is someone telling you what happened? Because everyone's got an agenda. So that's the mission for today. I got a lot of energy. I drank a ton of coffee, so you guys are this is what I'm normally like in class. High energy, high octane. How do historians use sources? We already covered that. They read things and they write about it. They analyze it. Individual people like yourself record history, so then we read what they write, and boom. Cave paintings, we covered that stuff. This is all old stuff, so don't worry about the fact we're just skipping right through it. Ooh. Archaeology, we covered that. Carbon dating of things. Learn from bone. Basically, how they study ancient history is through a lot of bone work, genetic work. Oops, let me get rid of this stupid thing. And guessing, essentially. Tons and tons and tons of guessing. So the Stone Age, blah, 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 blah. Fire helps. I mean, pottery. All this stuff is on your last assignment. How did pottery help and stuff? Whoop. What art did early humans create? Paintings made from grease and blood and stuff. Stonehenge. Ooh. Before they invented the wheel, they built this really cool stone altar that we don't know what it does or why it's there or why they built it. We know nothing. Okay. What turned the Stone Age into the Bronze Age? Human innovation. Stone tools broke really easily. They flake easily. So people were always on the move to create better technology, as you know we do now. Nowadays we got computers and cell phones, but they're not fast enough. They're not small enough, or they're big enough, or the camera's not good enough. So we got to invent new stuff always. We always got to be improving. So that's the same way. People have been that way forever. So stone wasn't good enough. They had to make something better. Copper is the first metal people discovered. You mix copper and bronze. You mix copper and tin to make bronze. So the Bronze Age started as the Copper Age, but there's really no use in differentiating between those two because it doesn't do us any good. Later, they discovered how to melt copper and tin. So first off, they just use copper. Copper is really bendable. It doesn't. You don't even actually have to melt it. You don't have to melt it like iron to shape it. You can just take a rock and start banging copper, and it will like form a shape. So you don't even have to heat it up. That's the beauty of copper. Well, eventually people discovered that copper was kind of brittle, and if you melt it and mix a little bit of tin in there, you make bronze. Some early age scientists figured that out. I don't know how. Nobody knows how. They didn't write anything down then. So bronze is harder than copper, and it holds a sharper edge because the tin makes it stronger than copper. The tin mixed in there. But if it's all tin, it's too bitter, and the tin just breaks really easy. Or too brittle, not bitter, sorry. So 3,500 years before Christ, which would be 5,000 years ago, 5,521 years ago, or 20. What am I talking about? It's not 2021. Prehistoric people made their tools from bronze. They used it for the next 2,000 years. So the Bronze Age lasted for 2,000 years. Basically, from here to BC days was how long people were just using bronze. It's called the Bronze Age, but I don't necessarily think it's the best way to divide things up because people were using bronze in China for 1,000 years before people were using bronze in England. 1,000 years is a heck of a long time. So it's kind of hard to say the world was in a Bronze Age when half the world wasn't even in the Bronze Age for another 1,000 years till after the Bronze Age was over for some people. And some people who live in tribes in the Amazon rainforest, for example, or some parts of South Africa, they're still considered, they would still be Stone Age because they don't even use metal tools. Bronze does not break easily, unlike copper or tin. Once you mix them together, they're strong. So these are all artifacts made from bronze material from ancient societies. It looks like they had some bronze in this dress, a little bit in this cool little wallet thing that looks like it's got a neat little stone on it. I don't know what that is, a tie? I don't know. Maybe it's just a color bronze. I don't know how that ended up in there. I don't know what that is. In any case, the rest of these are old tools, some clothing, just a little bit of bronze inlay in them. Uh, yeah, this is where people started inventing canoes. They used the bronze to hollow out the canoe. Although you didn't need to do that because people had canoes in North America and they were not in the Bronze Age. Prehistory. We talked about this the other day. Prehistory has no writing in it. People were initially just nomads living in tribes, much like those tribes I talked about still that are living in the Amazon, and some of them are in South Africa and other places in the world as well. Those are just two examples. Um, they would move from place to place. They would follow the herds. As the herds migrated, so would humans. Once they started to learn to grow crops, though, that kind of fell off. They just stayed close to where the crops would grow, and they would form small groups there and like little villages. So once people had a sure supply of food, they didn't have to follow around the animals anymore. Well, then they started to improve the places where they stayed. It was like, well, if I'm going to live here forever, I might as well build a house. So that began a chain of fast changes because once you start building things, you need to make tools. And once you run into problems, you have to come up with new ideas and new tools to solve those problems. And then that creates new problems, which you create new tools to solve. And then that kind of creates the crescendo effect of a crescendo is when something builds and builds and builds and then boom, it explodes. Like when a band is doing like a that's the crescendo. And so that's kind of what technology has sort of done is it starts slow and then it builds and builds and builds and builds and boom, now we're in the 21st century where we have internet and stuff. So basically the first civilizations were created out of this need to harvest crops and then improve our ability to harvest the crops. Because more food means more people and happier life. We all love to be full. We don't love to be hungry. So characteristics of civilizations. We're going to start talking about early civilizations now. Excuse me, I went from hot to cold. Okay, so now we're talking about civilizations, how they got started, and then this next phase of human history. There's a lot more information. It's kind of hard to learn about prehistory because there's not much. That's more in the archaeology and anthropology field, where we are trying to learn history here and not archaeology or anthropology. Those are separate fields that deal with the very beginning of humans. History is more about when things were written. That's why we call the rest of it prehistory. So the characteristics, sorry, I keep getting distracted. Characteristics of civilizations is that they have large population centers. You can't have a civilization if a bunch of people don't live together. That's kind of a given. You need people to have a civilization. So you got to have a large population center, a big city, monumental architecture, and unique art styles. So to be your own civilization, you have to build your unique buildings and have unique art style. This building here is called a ziggurat. This is a feature of ancient Mesopotamian cities, which would be in modern day Iraq, Kuwait, and Syria. They call that the Levant in a lot of ways, in a lot of sources. We'll hear it called the Levant by many people. It's kind of an older term. You will not find something like this ziggurat in Egypt because Egypt is a separate civilization where they use pyramids. So the unique art style of their buildings and their clothing and their art is what separates them into different civilizations to us modern historians. They may not have been. Oh, what the heck? Okay, so we'll pretend like that slide's not there. So monumental architecture and unique art. They share communication strategies, which would be like the same language, the same written language, so they speak the same to each other, or they write the same, or maybe they draw the same kind of pictures to each other. Just, same ways of communicating with one another. If someone speaks, Egyptian and someone speaks whatever they spoke in Mesopotamia, they're different communication strategies, so they must be different civilizations. Systems for administrating territories, that's just basically a government. Like our system for administrating territories right now is the U.S. federal government administers the states, which then administer counties, which then administer townships. So that's our administration system in our civilization, but other ones are different. Some of them have kings and queens and stuff, so that's their way of doing it, different civ. Civ meaning civilization. A complex division of labor. Basically, this means that if you're all farming, everyone's a farmer. Or if you're all hunter-gatherers, everyone's hunting or gathering. But once you start farming, you only need one farmer to grow the food, so someone else can start becoming a builder to build the house for the farmer who farms. And then, well, if there's going to be a builder, then there's got to be someone who cuts trees for the builder to build. So then there has to be a tree cutter. And then so on and so forth. So there becomes a division of labor where people work in separate fields. This is kind of what starts inequality. Ancient, tribal societies don't have very much inequality because there's not a division of labor. Some people aren't considered more valuable than others, what they are in our society. We consider a CEO of a company more valuable than, a McDonald's worker, and that's why a CEO gets paid so much more and then has such a better life. Division of people into social and economic classes. So that's what I was just talking about, where once you divide people into labor, some labor is more valuable than other labor. So then those people become higher up in the value of society, so to speak, and they become a higher economic class. Someone who speaks to God, who is a priest, is going to be more important than someone who just farms crops. You need to be able to talk to the gods. So the priest would have a better lifestyle. He would be in a higher economic class than the farmer because he is considered more important. It's not true that he's more important, but he's considered to be so. And so then this one goes back to the unique art styles. This little guy here is like some type of hippo type situation. Looks like you put candles in him. That's a Chinese thing. It's a Chinese bit of art. Maybe it's a bull. I don't know. This is a bit of Mesopotamian art. It's a chariot, riding a chariot with some horses. And then this here is Egyptian art. You might be able to recognize this as the cool snakes that are kind of synonymous with Egypt. This looks like it would have been a wristband of some type. Neat stuff. So that's kind of some primary sources you would be looking at if you were studying these societies, because they were made during the time that we're studying. We're studying early civilizations, and these were from early civilizations, so they would be primary sources. Eridu, the world's first city? Question mark. No one really knows when the first city was. A lot of people argue about it. As far as I know, Eridu is considered the earliest one, but then earlier I contradicted myself in my slideshow, so who knows? Here's just some cool bronze artwork from the time. The guy's head fell off, but he used to have a head on there. He's got a tablet on his lap, which is a piece of stone they used to carve on to write. Looks like these guys were the ones, they had wheels in this city, so we know that the wheel had been invented by this time. Cuneiform, the very first form of writing, was found in this city. Mesopotamia is the civilization that Eridu was a city in. Mesopotamia means the land between two rivers in Greek. What made Eridu civilization? Well, it had ritual centers. It had a ziggurat, the White Temple at Uruk. Or Uruk is a city right next door. It's kind of like the Twin Cities. They were close to each other. So Uruk had that big ziggurat, which was a temple to worship the gods. They had religious elite. They had priests working in these temples, and then they had, military soldiers, obviously. They had people who worked in agriculture and then people who worked in industry, just builders and just farmers. And there was a lot of people living together. There's a lot of communal houses built together. This is kind of a layout of the temple. You would come in through the door, or these are the doors. You come in, there's the offering table where you set your offerings, the altar where you pray, these side rooms, which I don't know, whatever whatever they use those for. End of the slideshow. All right, so that'll be all we covered for today. Next week we will do a little video about ancient Mesopotamia. Oh shoot, 21 minutes. These videos keep getting long. Sorry. Anyways, have a good day, guys. Take it easy.